So we've got a lot of things to talk to you about today. Your Substack is awesome. Let everybody know where they can find that because it's really great. You put out these newsletters and it really gives a lot of history and a lot of background about what we discuss when you're here.
Yeah, it's if you just go to substack.com and then in the search box, just type in the Paul Stone because there's only one the Paul Stone.
The.
But there's a few of us that write on Substack. I'm the Paul Stone, and my documents will come right up. Just remember substack.com. It's a short 2-page, 3-page document. I keep them short. So you'll read through it in a couple minutes and maybe you'll find something useful. And my style is that, there's tons of people writing out there, but the combination of all the stuff I've paid attention to and gotten over decades of my life has come together to kind of try to understand anything complicated, just go to the ground level. Just how do we get our way all the way down to the ground level of where something is starting from, the source of something. And that's I'm harping on China at the moment to try and illuminate a few things. We can talk about that if you want.
I would love to. In fact, it's one of my first questions because China has invested nearly $1 trillion in building numerous megacities in the anticipation of future population growth. So I'm curious about that. Most of those cities remain, though, unoccupied, leading to insolvency of many development programs, including the collapse of Evergrande, once a leading real estate firm, due to what's known as the Ghost City crisis. So what's going on with that? What do you think the ongoing impact does a ghost city crisis have on the Chinese economy and government debt?
Yeah, it shows a couple things. One, they don't know what to do with the money they have, and they've never had money. They did not come onto the world stage pulling themselves up by their own bootstraps. Our elected officials and the greedy profiteers and corporateers whispering and cajoling our elected officials into opening the gates to China is what made China. So it's real quick to help see that long ago they built a wall and didn't want anything to do with the world. In 1990, China's GDP from making fireworks and cheap toys was $330 billion. Now, just to compare that, Texas is a $2 trillion economy. So with $330 billion, and our economy at the time was about $6 trillion, that's a massive difference between a country that's out there on the world stage, making stuff, selling stuff, fighting wars, getting involved in global politics and stuff, versus a country that is just a third world country and doesn't care. They send you rice, they send you fireworks and cheap toys, and that's all they're into. We forced China to become something. The people I mentioned before, entities, going over there, telling them what we can do for them, telling them how it'll be better. We grew, our country grew, our DC government, the federal government in DC grew China to what it is today. And they don't know what to do with the money they got. They're like trust fund kids that never paid attention to anything, did well in school. They don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to manage it. So they went off and built, there are more vacant dwellings, newly built in China than all of the homes in America.
Goodness.
There's cities there's nobody in, right?
Yeah, but just all of the homes in America. Imagine them all empty and we're all living on the sidewalk. So most of these people would get jobs in their economy of making stuff that's sold here in America and Europe. But they would come out of the rice paddies and move into the cities and work in the factories and need great places to live. And obviously the engineering in there, how this works is it wasn't really a company that said, let's invest crazy money for building, hundreds of thousands of dwellings, I guess millions of dwellings, that maybe people will live in. A company that can live and die by its profit margins might build one building that maybe people will come live in. And then maybe another one when it's half full. And then when that one's full and the other one's half full, maybe another one. But when the money comes out of a communist government that has no idea how to manage money, they're just throwing money around everywhere because communism is always interested in imagery. What are the optics? When Chernobyl blew up and the Communist Party came, and obviously they're everywhere, when they came and they're like managing the fallout from that reactor, and the guy, one of the scientists who works there, and goes, that's lead. And he's pointing at lead on the ground. And he goes, there's lead on the rooftop of the building next to it. Lead is only at the center of the core of a nuclear reactor. If you are looking at lead, the frickin' thing exploded from the core. And the communist leader guy goes, that's not lead. It's not lead, which means the core didn't explode. So imagery is always at the heart of a Communist Party, so it seems. And where we make mistakes in a democracy, we look at those as gems and we learn from them and we continue to perfect the process for whatever the thing is, making something or policy or whatever. And so China's Achilles heel is that it can't learn from its own mistakes. It has to cover them up. So they're missing the seed ground for expansion and actual strength and actual perfection towards something. So they don't know how to manage money. So that's going to make them desperate. When you couple economic implosion with the demand for perfect optics, they have to become extraordinarily desperate. And it's very, I'm dwelling into skirting off into psychology here, but to me that sets up the threat for how, well, if we can't have her, you can't either. So if her is greatness and financial fortitude and looking good on the world stage, if China doesn't get to end up keeping or looking like it can have that, then it ruins it for everyone else. Because the last piece to add into this is communism seems to be bent on world domination.
Definitely.
The Soviet version, the Chinese version of communism, is bent on taking over the whole world. How do they do that if they're imploding financially? They ruin it for everyone else.
What do you think's going to happen to these unoccupied ghost cities and their decaying infrastructure?
Yeah, they just become things that remind China that their plans sucked and they don't know how to manage money. So they just stand there. No one's going to move into them. They're done. They've peaked. From what I've read, and I'm not a trained economist, not a financial advisor, but I might add a little bit better of a storytelling element to the economics that would put most people to sleep or just cause their eyes to glaze over and tune out, is that from what I've read, they have price deflation. We have inflation where prices and costs keep going up. They're suffering a very unique dynamic where the price of goods is falling, which means companies can't charge enough to make enough money to stay viable. That's a horrific situation where prices are actually dropping. You have deflation because your economy doesn't have enough heat in it to cause inflation. But they're still printing money. You look at the top of the chart of the recent data. There's 2 China parts. There's going to be 4. The first one talks about how our government and greedy people made China happen in the first place. And this latest one talks about their implosion and what actions might they take to save themselves from implosion, or not look like the only one imploding on a world stage, take others down with them. And our Achilles heel is we have everything made there. I mean, everything from refrigerators to car parts to everything that makes a big box store.
To all the medicine.
Right. So just imagine if Trump, instead of tariffs, said, I'm giving American companies a year to stop making anything in China. Nothing will be allowed in China after a year. Done. Drop the mic. Yeah, that will cause some financial destruction. It would cause a lot of pain. Our economy would suffer. But isn't that a principled move? How can we, when they release COVID, because it didn't happen because a bat spit in a pig's mouth. It was released from a lab and it was released intentionally. When they released COVID and we didn't have anything made there and our pharma wasn't made there, imagine how hard we could hit back.
Completely.
Well, we can't hit back because they just say, hey, we won't make your pharma anymore. Look what they just did to the AI industry. They just released, free, it's called freeware. Word for it, it's freeware. Like there's some other very essential computer software programs that are just free on the internet. I think Java is one of them, JavaScript. Mm-hmm. Don't know how heavily that's used anymore. They keep evolving. But Sun Microsystems just gave that away. They just gave JavaScript away. So engineers could just write code and write programs and stuff without having to have a bunch of money to pay Sun Microsystems for Java. And I could be wrong on that, but I think I'm right. So what they just released in DeepSeek is like, oh, we'll screw NVIDIA and all the people that want to have a lockdown on what they've created. In a way, it's like a patent interference action, because it's like some companies that invent something are only financially viable if they're the only ones that can offer it to you. Like we protect drugs, I think, for 10 or 15 years, and then you can have the generic, which means I could buy the CVS brand or I could buy the the brand that was made by the company that invented the drug, but they're protected for a period of time to fetch all the profits they can and protect that drug from no one else making it. So it's not like that exactly, but it does chop at the knees of AI companies that wanted to charge you money for access to their AI, because now you can get it for free from China. I don't know how badly you want AI programming from China, but that seems to be a nasty thing. So they're making moves that are hostile. It's people already doing well in spite of China, but because China's not doing well, I think that gets worse where they really start hitting. And we are still stuck to them because all of our stuff's made there. So what are you buying at Walmart or Home Depot or Lowe's that isn't made in China? If you walk in and said, take everything off the shelf that came from China, I don't even know if you'd have nails.
Yeah. I mean, everything. And that's what I'm hoping we're going to get back to, is starting to look, is this made in America or is it not? Because even DeepSeek, they even have in small print that they keep their servers in China, in the People's Republic of China. I read this yesterday. I mean, it's right there for everybody to read. Now, I don't know how comfortable you are, but I'm certainly not going to just hand my information over to China. I mean, they're stealing it as it already is. So no, I mean,
but I think a lot of the world will use it because a lot of the world likes China because they hate us.
Wow.
So, China just recently signed up, I think, 40 countries in a pact to use their currency instead of the dollar in trade.
Unbelievable.
So just look at this one piece, right? So everyone on Earth wants to enjoy life on Earth. If it's a miserable existence, that sucks. Can I avoid that? When our government prints money, starts printing money in the 80s and 90s and like crazy since the year 2000, and it's just nutso now, we're complaining about inflation. We've been causing inflation for the rest of the world at the same time because copper and all these commodities, coffee, sugar, wheat, pork bellies, all that stuff is priced in our dollar, traded at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. So if you just look back at plainly stated inflation since the year 2000, it's been 8% a year. 8% a year. So if your paycheck isn't growing by 8% a year, and I know it's not, then you're drowning. And if the world's paychecks and third world countries, and I guess I don't know if there's a second world country, but there probably are, if their paychecks aren't growing by 8% a year, they're drowning. We're causing them to suffer. Not we. God, I got to get better at this. The people making decisions about printing money are causing the whole world to suffer financially. So it's normal now. They don't want to deal with their currency. They're trying to get away from this hell that we keep creating because we don't work with financial truth. We don't match up problems with real solutions. Government in charge of things just throws printed money at it.
It is.
So of course they want to get away from us, and of course they hate us because when we're on TV, we got the NFL, Major League Baseball, all these great things, Learjets, billionaires, Kim Kardashian, all these sports guys and gals. We have all this famous stuff, music, movies. No other country has a Hollywood like we do or a music industry like we do. So they're envious of stuff that happens here. We don't seem to be, the lens that they get to look through doesn't look like anyone's suffering here in America, but they're suffering. And it's because we print money to pay our bills and screw the rest of the world.
That's what's so interesting too, because now all of a sudden China is aiming to dominate the global semiconductor industry, and they view it as a crucial to asserting global influence. I mean, that is the avenue in which they're going, which is pretty scary. And people are bracing themselves and wondering, with the tensions between China's strategic interest in Taiwan, this is big. I mean, do you think that China is likely to invade Taiwan under a Trump administration? With Biden, we were all holding our breath. But now?
I don't think they have to. And I don't think that it ever will happen because I don't think we would literally send our boys and girls into the bottom of the ocean fighting a war with China over Taiwan. But it is one hell of a reason to spend tons of money on military invention and technology and production. Same with China. I mean, do you literally park 200 destroyers or whatever off the coast of Taiwan and fire a few missiles? They wouldn't surrender. They would just go, okay, we give up. We tried. We fought like hell. We fought the principled fight. But for our citizens' sake, you win. But while the threat is pushed out there in the media and all these hostilities coming out of governments and tough talk, you get to spend a lot of money on your military. which leads to a lot of the inventions we enjoy today. GPS was a military invention. Now we get to use it on our phones, and now companies get to track us and watch everything we do. So it has a sick side to it as well.
It does.
No, I don't
it's like
think
the
there ever
internet.
will be an attack on Taiwan. I think they just end up getting absorbed when China's ready to throw down.
They take
I
them when
think
they want them.
it's normal. Go ahead. Sorry.
I said they take them when they want them. Believe me.
Yeah. I mean, they just can't. And so long ago, and I think it was expired, there was a pact where we had to send military force to defend Taiwan's independence. And I think that treaty expired. I could be wrong. People look it up. But even if it is still in play, like, are we really throwing down full-scale war against Russia if they invade Poland?
Right.
Really? We could send a lot of troops over there just outside the western border of Poland. Okay, don't come an inch closer, because everyone's tied to this financial fragility. Damn it, if we start a war, oil's going to go through the roof and all these prices are going to go up, and then all of our people will be complaining, and we'll just be struggling, and we don't want that. It's, just want our comforts, man.
Exactly.
That's what makes us cowards. And when you can't defend principles and truths, that's what you are.
Well, and
You're a
that's,
coward.
That's what we hear about too. I mean, we hear about all of these scenarios of the end of the world, right? Unfolding: war with China, war with Russia, debt crisis, supply chain disruptions. I mean, and then we start talking about crypto, and we start talking about how, the opportunity to make money in crypto long term. How does crypto play out in a situation like that? Is it a pyramid scheme? I mean, long term,
It's such a joke.
when you start talking about this stuff, where does gold come in?
Gold is real. It's from the earth. It's like chicken. It's like steak. It's like peas, corn, squash, lumber, oil. It's from the earth. You look at electric cars, it's kind of like cheating. You're like, yeah, let's make an electric car, save the environment. But it takes even more diesel to find the rare earth minerals you need for these batteries than it does to dig out oil out of the ground. Those diesel trucks burn 100 gallons of diesel an hour. It might be more than that. So and what do you do with the batteries? Because once, I know I can rebuild an engine. I can get 300,000 miles probably out of an engine today. But my understanding is the batteries have a life expectancy of 10, 12, 13 something years. And then you just buy new batteries? And where do the batteries go? Well, that's why we don't want nuclear power, because we have to put the waste in the ground and it's just kind of nasty. Well, where do the toxic batteries go now? You got to start storing them in the ground? Everything in it's shot. So how does that, and then we just got to live with real stuff. Electricity is a benefit and a luxury, but if you put everyone in America on an electric car, it'd be the same electrical demand as having 10 refrigerators in every single studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, townhouse, and single-family home in the country. Well, how are you going to power that? Coal?
Well, I mean, I'm
You
used to
can't.
rolling
No,
blackouts. How are you
You'd be
going to
burning
make
10
it?
times as much coal as you burn now.
Right. I mean, the
So
whole thing's
it's
crazy.
It's treating symptoms. So like I said at the top of the show, go to the ground, go to the source, go as low as you can. Defenses win. That tush push Philly has, if anyone's into the NFL, wins because they get lowest. When you watched, the Bills trying to do tush push against the Chiefs, you have a 6'7" quarterback that can't get low enough, so he gets smashed and pushed backwards. When you look at how Philly does it, they are low. They are low, low, low. The lowest you can get, and you win. Go to the ground, find out what the true atomic level source of something is, and we can understand complicated things so quickly. They're treating symptoms. The real problem is money printing. That's what afforded the population of the planet to double in the last 50 years. Double. From 3.7 billion people in 1971 to 8.1 billion people today. It's because the limits came off. Parents be like, in the old days, like, we have 2 kids already, babe, and it's, it's kind of, we're gonna have another one. You had to think about that stuff. Now, and I'm not drawing a direct connection to it, but when the limits come off, if the underbrush never, if the deer herd just keeps growing and growing and growing, and the underbrush growth keeps up with the herd growing, then the herd just keeps growing. But if eventually you run out of underbrush, deer die off and the herd shrinks back to what Earth's willing to support. We are a wildly pushed out beyond reality humanity than what Earth can support. And so as they try to solve global warming, look, pedophilia wouldn't exist without printed money, in my opinion. Not on the scale it exists today. One, you'd have probably mom would be raising kids instead of daycares. So maybe we'd have less people that are whacked in the head that want to, do that sort of thing. And two, they wouldn't have the money to pay for it. So the industry wouldn't be there. The war on drugs wouldn't exist without the printed money because you wouldn't have the misery out throughout your population where people are like, God, man, this life sucks. I need drugs. Like, I just need to check out. The magical invention of a human being never thinks it needs to anesthetize itself unless it's living in a stress and a misery it can't get rid of. It can't even figure out where the hell it's coming from. The Egyptians weren't addicted to drugs. The Roman Empire wasn't addicted to drugs. The British Empire and the Ottoman Empire and all these other empires weren't addicted to drugs. They weren't en masse doing drugs all day. Well, why are we? It never existed until these last 54 years where there was a war on drugs. And the war on drugs should have never been fought in Colombia. Reagan could have been like, instead of just say no, just quit printing money. That's what's causing the misery. It's causing mothers to quit their primary job and move into the workforce. And that's nothing against any mom that's in the workforce. You have tough choices to make, and I judge you not. But I'm saying the source of all these problems is governments and is money printing. And China's government is a joke when it comes to understanding how to even manage money because they didn't grow it. It was given to them. But they have communism and they have these optics and they can start doing some very nasty things as they near the flames on their rear and they react and they bounce off of that pain and they want to react and do stuff elsewhere. If we said, damn it, U.S. is out of oil, maybe we would take over Saudi Arabia. So wars are always about resources. If China goes, shit, our finances are cooked, maybe we kind of suck America's economy into ours by holding them hostage, by deleting their access to information, digitized information and communications. We turn all that back on later, or, we make all their stuff so they can't have anything unless we ship it. So what if they bankrupted America and said, we'll still send you the pharma for free? Okay, China. All right. Yeah. We need our cancer meds and our schizo meds and our bipolar meds, and we need all these meds. We need the meds.
Well, don't forget the trans meds and all that stuff. That's become quite an industry in and of itself. I mean, it's just, it's insanity.
Think about all the poor people that suffer from schizophrenia and aren't getting their meds.
Oh, my gosh.
Where are they tomorrow? Hacking up your neighbors.
Exactly.
I mean, I've seen crime shows. So when you just boil it down to the ground, like how screwed are we? We are so screwed because we have a communist nation making all of our stuff, and our economy is now a spending-driven economy. When I said in 1990, 82% of the stuff that was consumed here, so if there was 100 transactions in America, 82 of those transactions went off on things made in America in 1990. Today, 11%. 11 transactions out of 100 happen on things made in America today. So we've flipped from making money from selling stuff to spending money on stuff made elsewhere. 70% of our economy is driven by you and I spending money. If you curtail the ability for us to spend money or eliminate the things we spend money on, our economy is in ashes, and I don't care how much money you print. And the dollar being only worth 3 cents says that we've printed so much money, it was once worth 90 cents, then 80, then 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, 3 pennies left in the dollar to be printed until you're at zero. And I don't think you'd ever hit zero. You'd be at a tenth of a penny, 100th of a penny, 1,000th of a penny. You kind of don't really hit zero because there's a value element in it. And again, not a trained economist. But everything I've studied, this is what I go to. That's why I say the things I say, because I've gone to the ground to understand what the symptoms are coming from.
It is really something, especially when you combine that with the fact that the United States pays interest on approximately $1 trillion in debt held by the People's Republic of China.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all happening right now in real time. And so people are wondering, hey, if the PRC were to address the default, would it entail payments to bondholders between $1 trillion to $12 trillion? I mean, Will the Trump administration approach this situation? This is big, really big.
We feel terrible, right, for people who can't just get out of a bad relationship. He won't
Right.
beat me again, or she won't, whatever. And you're like, can't you just leave? Can't we just leave China
I mean,
and
it seems-
suffer the bludgeoning that we would take caused by that? Or do we suffer the bludgeoning they bring against us? Or do we suffer the own bludgeoning of our own bankruptcy where literally there's nothing that can be done? Look, the way I look at '08, it was the end of our, and again, not a trained economist, no financial advice, just opinions. Research your own stuff. See if you can find things that refute the understanding I've come to by the things I've studied. I look at '08 and '09 as the end of our economy running under its own steam. Because if you say, what's GDP in America without the printed money since '09? I would see it as a negative number. So if they were reporting every 90 days, America's economy shrank again since 2009, I'd be looking at what your money's doing, or we might be in a situation right now where we're shooting each other in the streets for food. But the printed money keeps us from feeling the depression that started back then. Our ability to print, England wouldn't have the ability to print this much this long. France, no other country in the world. And we're the reserve currency. So there's a lot of liquidity that happens because transactions happen in our dollar. So I've used this analogy before. It's like if you drove up on a romantic night with your mate, whatever, to a lakeside evening, full moon, and you miss the brakes, you're going straight into the lake. You're down at like couple miles an hour. You miss the brakes, you're in the lake. What if you hit the lake at 600 miles an hour? You wouldn't be there long enough for the tires to touch you'd already be gone. So you'd skip right over what would take you down. The velocity, the utilization of our dollar is what keeps us from just sinking into the lake. But as it slows, and eventually as it's worth nothing, there's some problems that man can't solve. And no one's solving any problems now with printed money, but they keep us from feeling the death of our world, mainly because of what started in '08. Those baby boomers retired in '97, and 60 million senior earners started leaving the workforce in 1997. Debt was $4 trillion, and $1 trillion of that was fighting Saddam Hussein. So $4 trillion, dollars worth 56 cents. Today the dollar's worth 3 cents. Debt is 36 trillion. And if you count unemployment the old-fashioned way, unemployment is 25%.
And that's why you need to invest in something.
And that's why you've got to
real.
wake up to the math. I'm
That's
just
it.
trying to give math a mouthpiece.
Well, it makes sense. Just real quick, just so everybody knows, Zeldin has been confirmed. Final vote 56-42. He is going to be the RPA administrator. And so that's something that just happened. I wanted just to report that. But how can people set up and get an account with you? And because your company is awesome, I've talked to people over there. They're just doing a fantastic job. But we need everybody to really do their research with what's going on in the market right now. What do you suggest? How do they start?
My suggestion is from what I know, and I've been on phones talking to people wondering about moving their money to precious metals for way more, 15 years or so. And they always want to do it. They already want to do it. They already want to make the shift. But imagine, leaving your religion for another one. Imagine leaving just anything that's been your routine for 40 years or 30 years for a different routine. It's going to feel unnerving. We might just, cut to the chase and say it's scary or a big decision. But really all it's requiring is something God didn't put in us when we were born, which is courage. Courage is something we have to reach for. If we didn't have to reach for it, we wouldn't have a word for it. It would be like, oh, they did that thing. We wouldn't even say it was scary because courage was already in us to overcome the fear of doing the thing. So we would just do the thing and there wouldn't be a word called courage. Courage lives outside of us. What we are is an ally to help you find that courage, or, just a friendly face, or, hand in hand or arm around a shoulder to help you start making the shift. And, we would also suggest, many people hear, oh my God, if the dollar goes to zero, I'll be at zero, so I better move all my money. We're not suggesting that. What we're suggesting is starting. You win when you start. If this is something you want to be doing since Obama, since COVID, since Biden, it isn't about the news getting worse, that you need more worse news to make this shift. What you need is to recognize the only thing missing that's keeping you stuck is courage, and we help you find that. Because we already know that's what's missing. You don't need a slick salesman. You don't need tons of incentives. You don't need the news to get worse. There's two, like I've said before. Anyway, I hope I'm not going on too long. But there's two, if you want us to call you back, there's 2 days, maybe we can call you back. The day before everything busts and the day after. And most people would say, you're not going to know the day before it busts. Right. So why don't we just start today?
It's really a good idea. I mean, your group over there is fantastic, and we talk about it all the time on the show. On this show, Colonial Metals Group. Just so everybody knows, give them a call. You can call them at 1-800-889-8087, or you can visit the website freegoldguide.com/LB. LB stands for litter box, but definitely check it out because we never know what's going to happen. We have a lot of really great sponsors that are our just-in-casers, everything from medications to, of course, Colonial Metals Group to all of these different things. And it's because of those just-in-case. And like you said, I mean, are you going to call before? Are you going to call after? No, you need to make sure that you're prepared right now. And that's really it. And I do know you have to leave early today because I can't keep you like I kept you last time. But because I know you got a lot of things going on. But no, this is a great group. And you are also offering an incentive. And I always tell people, look, $7,500 in silver. I mean, that's really great. I don't know how long it's going to last, but to definitely sign up today, there's certain people that will be able to qualify for that. So they'll need to talk to somebody over there at Colonium Metal Group to find out if they do qualify.
Yeah. And I always said, maybe how we're different is I've always been primarily aware that it isn't about us, it's about you. And generally we're talking to 60, 70, and 80-year-olds and 90-year-olds occasionally, and they built the country. So we're as delicate as we can be, respectful as we can be. I mean, we're respectful of that feature to the conversation. You might be talking to a 30-year-old, 40-year-old at Colonial, but they know they're talking to someone who helped build the country. They know they're talking to people that are mystified. How the hell is this what America is today? How? We know you're in agony over that. We know you're angry, stressed out to the max. We know there's no more room to take on any more stress. Precious metals ought to be alleviating stress. Once you're there, you could think, 10, 20%, whatever percentage you feel is okay to start with, you just start somewhere. We know where the trailhead is. Now you got to start the journey. That takes a little courage. And once you start, the reports we've always gotten back from people is they feel better.
Exactly.
They feel better. They finally did something about this. And I think most times when we act with courage, we feel better on the other side of that. Everything you want in life is always going to lie on the other side of fear. Fear is the guardian of great. You cannot get greatness online. You can't get it from a textbook. You're going to have to go out and apply the knowledge somewhere, which is the scary part. Reading a book by yourself, reading a whole encyclopedia and knowing everything, all good. And then go apply it. Go let people know you know something. That's scary. It takes courage for me to go on these shows. I mean, I'm not the most, I don't know if I have a face for TV. I guess I do okay, but it's kind of scary. I didn't grow up wanting to be like, on camera or be an actor or something. So the people you'll talk to at Colonial know that you're all smart, you're all capable, you're all good, you're great people, and you're stressed out, and we have empathy for that.
It's a great group. I recommend everybody definitely give them a call today. It's 1-800-889-8087, or you can go online and you can head on over to freegoldguide.com/LB. But it's a great company, and gold has only skyrocketed. I've never heard anybody say, I'm really sorry I invested in gold or silver. I've never heard that, ever. I mean, in the long term, I've never heard anybody ever come back and say, oh, what a bummer, I did that. No, they don't feel like that ever. So on that note, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it, Paul. We love when you come and visit us.
That's so nice to